Okay, here we are. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Free Progress Education YouTube channel. Today we have again our friend Leon Liu. We had him already for an interview the last time, and this will be the second part of the interview. If you want to know more about him, just check out our last video. There you will find all the information about him, his work, what he's done, and so on, and of course the video itself of the first part of the interview. So I can introduce you directly. Hello, Leon.
Hello, Marco.
Yes, so the first question for today I would like to make is something about something you already mentioned the previous interview, but I would like to go further on this. And this is about the software and open source learning. So my question is, how do you envisage software development and open source learning could change the educational landscape and paradigm? Why do you think this is so important, and this can be or will be in the future a very important point for education?
I think this is a big topic. I think I will try to answer it. I think few parts. I think first, so let me talk about software. So as we can see, our society has been transformed deep.
Hello?
Hear me?
Do you hear me?
Hello?
Yes, now I hear.
Yeah, I do hear
I
you.
think there was a slip. I lost the last 10 seconds. Can you repeat the last few sentences?
Yeah, okay. I think I just started. How about now? Is it good?
Yeah, now it seems to work, yes.
Okay. Okay. So software has already deeply transformed our society, especially for the past 20 years. So yeah, more than 20 years because of the internet. So essentially, software is digitizing our society. So we can see the digital transformation has fundamentally changed our society. So yeah, actually, from I can quote an interview Mark Anderson has done with Wall Street Journal, in which he said software is eating the world. He means that software is becoming the infrastructure of our society, very important infrastructure, and it's creating a lot of jobs, new type of companies, new innovations. And one thing he observed is a lot of jobs created by software industry demand a lot of, there are a lot of jobs created, but they cannot be filled, although there are a big unemployment rate in the United States. But people who got unemployed cannot fill the new opportunities. So yeah, I think I don't need to go into detail as how really software changed fundamentally our society. I think we are all witness of this revolutionary change. But there are two, I think, major areas that remain resistant to the change. One is education, and the other is healthcare. So about education, I think the real issue why it's so difficult to change. I mean, one thing is the resistance from the current establishment, but the real reason I think is schooling. So here I talk about schooling. Schooling is different from education. So it has only been here for like 200 years. So
Sorry, Leon.
I'm sorry, I'm talking about schooling. Sorry,
What is schooling?
schooling.
Okay, maybe I don't. I have to check my bad English. I don't know what it is, but maybe the others know. What is
No,
schooling?
schooling is like school.
School is what?
School. Yeah,
Okay.
schooling. Yeah, you go to school. So I'm talking
Ah,
about
schooling.
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 Yeah,
Ah, school.
yeah.
Sorry. Yeah. Okay. Schooling. Okay. Yes.
Yeah, so we know there's such movement like unschooling, which is trying to
Yeah.
undo. Yeah, yeah. So also there such word as de-schooling, so which is to
Schooling.
undo the trauma that the negative impact influence that schooling has done on yourself. So schooling has been here only for like 200 years. Uh, yeah, so its major characteristic is compulsory nature with classrooms, with homework, test.
Yeah.
So this is schooling that's only with us for 200 years, but that's what people nowadays experience many when they talk about education. So so academically, also in the industry, when people come to education, even in our internet age, when they come to like making change or design, they can only think of in terms of classes, you know. So the digitization in the past 20 years for education majorly has been about moving offline classes to online.
Uh-huh.
So it has majorly been this process. But I think people now realize more and more, including mainstream medias, which I have read a couple of years ago, have called for fundamental thinking on what is learning and what is knowledge, called for change from this fundamental level. So I think for internet for software to change education, the potential is always there, but it hasn't been very successful because we didn't really do the digitization in the right way. The major reason is because we have fundamentally wrong concept about learning, about education, because of schooling. Because we most of us are schooled in schools for like 20 years. So we have a lot of this wrong concept about learning and about knowledge, which is a major obstacle for this change. So especially if you talk to like software programmers, they are really unaware of alternative education, which both you and me are familiar with. But to the mainstream, to the software programmers, they are very much unaware of that. So, um, so to answer your question, you asked about what open source learning is going to do for this. So, so open source learning, first of all, it is a continuation of my graduate school research, which is about how to digitize learning. So, which we'll call learning object at that time, but essentially it's about how we digitize learning, how we digitize knowledge. So um, so I think this is at the core of the challenge. Um, so yeah, so open source learning, I think all through all these years have identified I think the source, which we call it source of learning. So open source is to open that source. So the source we look at it, we think the source is experience people have when they are exploring the world. Uh, so that experience, and we also use like software trying to filter out those significant ones, which we call a significant experience for your learning. So those are experiences that matter and have an impact on your learning path, promote your understanding of the subject that you're interested in. So that's what we call significant experiences. Um, so actually, in this AI age, I'm thinking maybe in the near future, if we have some kind of device, if someone has significant experience in their brain, maybe the device can tell immediately. And with also it can really just record it by a text, and input into the system automatically. So I think it's something that uh, truly existing in our brain. So focus for open source learning is trying to open up that source for learning. So it's a digital transformation at the fundamental level, and and we call it the basic unit of knowledge. So here, there are two concepts here. One concept is biologically, it's like the cell in biological body. So um, so I was a biomedical engineering major before. So when we study life science, we know the biology creatures are made of cells, including like for example plants and animals. So there are all kinds of cells, but the basic unit of are cells, and the cell can be in different shape, but their basic structure are the same, and only by the shape a little bit different, they can form different part of your like different organs, different tissues in your body. So so similarly in open source learning, so for our basic unit, we significant experience. When we do the digital transformation for that, it also has the basic structure, uh, like description and tag, importance, self-ranked importance. So this the basic unit for our cell, and so it can be used to build higher level structure, just like the different kind of tissues in human body. So you can use the significant experience to build different higher level knowledge structures. So this is a biological perspective to look at, to trying to find cells of knowledge, the basic unit. So another perspective is we can call this knowledge engine. So it's like engine of the industrial time, which can transform energy. So for this engine for knowledge, what it does is to transform the the experience, the significant experience that you put in, and uh, and it transform it into knowledge. So it's by basic editing. So you can transform experience into knowledge. So this is engine for our area. So we call our area the age, knowledge age, compared to the previous industry age. So in industry age, we have this engines, but for knowledge age, we also have knowledge engine. So using knowledge engine, it can be used for all type of work that's related to knowledge, like for example, like teaching, learning, or like project management, yeah, team management, writing a book, writing a blog article, yeah, all things that's related to knowledge. So the knowledge engine can help, can be the engine for doing all these things. So this is, yeah, this is the vision and also the work that we have been doing for open source learning. So we think this is go to the heart of digital transformation for learning and for knowledge. So that's why I think that's the whole story is about. I think, yeah, I think to answer your question, yeah.
Yeah. I think that your idea is very, 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 very profound and goes deep, deep to the roots of many problems of not only education but probably also other things. As you already mentioned, healthcare. This is another subject
Mhm.
I would like to discuss sooner or later also with you, but not here. But I think it is difficult still to grasp because it is very deep and very true what you say. And since I am not a software engineer and I'm not kind of software guy who is very expert in this field, even also not at the theoretical level and the conceptual level, I still would like to keep focused on this topic a little bit more, because I would like to know, okay, but first of all, perhaps if I understood it well, because you at the beginning you mentioned that there is a problem of, despite that there is so much unemployment, there's a problem nevertheless to find and hire experts, IT experts and software engineers. And this, as I understand it, you connected this fact, this paradox, to the fact that in our school there is a schooling system that does not allow a true learning path, and does not allow young people to learn how to learn, and they therefore are not able to find and to open their source to knowledge. And this is why this is a connection that I did. I'm not saying that you have, but it's just I'm trying to understand if I got it right, or because it's very deep what you said, I think, and I encourage you, if you have not already done this, to put it also in a written format. Probably you have already done in your blog and so. But if it is this a possible explanation of the fact that nowadays industries are looking for software engineers, but they don't find it because our schooling system has not allowed them to open their source to a real form of learning. Did I, maybe a bit superficially, but did I get the point, or I'm still off track?
So you are asking why the people who got unemployed cannot refill the job that's newly created by software industry? Is that your
Yes,
question?
but in connection in connection to this open source learning ideal, you know that what you said now, I interpreted that because you talked about opening up to our source of learning.
Mm-hmm.
And that's also why you call it, or it is called open source learning.
Yeah.
Before that, you were talking about the fact that there is a problem with our education system, that is a schooling, which does not allow to learn really. And it is a false concept of education, you said. And I interpreted that this does not allow to open ourselves to the source of learning, and therefore the new generation comes out from schools and are not able to express themselves through software programming, software development.
Okay. Yeah, I think I will go into more detail on this. Yes, I think I see what you're trying to talk about here. So I think you need more detail. So yeah, I think the job newly created cannot be refilled by those unemployed. The reason for that, I think, is because they haven't learned how to learn, as you have mentioned. So that's the major reason. Um, Especially, I think they haven't learned how to do self-reflection. Even though they have been through school for like more than 10 years or 20, even 20 years, even they make notes all the time in the classroom, but they haven't really learned how to do self-reflection. So I think it's just a really irony, you know. Anything you can learn in school, you know, I think self-reflection probably is the only thing you can learn, because for learning you need many other things like courage, right? Courage is very important for learning. In order to learn faster, you need to have courage. But I don't think school is really ideal environment for learning courage, right? So because you stay in a closed environment, and you are quite static every day. So I don't think it's a place to learn courage. But at least since you are like reading and taking exam, at least you can learn self-reflection. But very unfortunately, even people after having going through school for 20 years haven't learned self-reflection. So I think we said people haven't learned how to learn, and I think self-reflection is at the core of learning. So this is a major ability that people don't have. So I personally, I feel this. I think it's a very simple way if you look at it. If people have this self-reflection skill, they can do whatever they would like to do, right? If you just reflect on it, they know how to reflect, have those skills, they can learn.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
absolutely.
so I identify this as I think as one thing. It is the major skill for learning. The other thing is it's also where we start doing our digitization, our digital transformation for learning, for knowledge. So
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, but when you say when you talk about the school children, students in school who only take notes, this is immediately an anecdote that immediately strikes me, because when I was a school teacher, actually I'm still, because I'm not teaching in a school but in a adult environment. But in any case, I always notice this fact that they take notes, but one does not have the impression that they are thinking about what they are doing. And I, as a teacher, tried in all the ways to put them in a self-reflection mode. Sometimes you are successful, but most of the times not. And you are successful usually only with few kids, and the others are just there waiting for the input. They have become machines that wait for the input, and they store it, and when the examination comes, they put it out, spit it out as an output. And this is a very deep consideration that you are making, that this idea of taking notes, always taking notes, etc., hinders self-reflection. It is one of them. I'm now going into this detail. And you certainly could too, come out with lots of other anecdotes.
Actually, one observation, so my experience here, although people take a lot of notes during their schools, after graduation, after they get out of school, they rarely make notes anymore, you know, and for many people, they hate making notes, you know.
That's interesting. And I never, you say a lot of things where I say, that's interesting. I never thought about that. Okay, I will try to notice how far this is. So in fact, adults don't take notes. Well, I take a lot of notes, but not because
some people,
I'm also taking notes about what we are saying, but because I forget it and I want to ask it to you again, to return to something. But that's interesting that there might be a connection between adults who hate take notes because more or less unconsciously it reminds them school. Interesting point. I will check this out. Yes, and at any rate, because here I took the note that you define also the self-reflection as something that goes at the core of learning. I would put this in underline this many more times.
I think hate might be hate taking notes. I think the hate might be a strong word. I think a better word, I think, is they have the negative feelings towards making notes. I think that may be more accurate.
But in any case, the idea is probably correct. Yes. Okay. Well, just a question: if a reader, if a listener, if someone who is seeing this video, and also I would like to go deeper for myself on this subject about the open source learning. Do you have some paper or on your blog, on your website, something that makes a summary of this, let me put it in quotes, philosophy of open source learning, as you did actually, so someone can go deeper into it? Do you have? Okay.
The website is opensourcelearning.org. So so I have categorized the articles into different categories. So such as we have like say a documentation, and also have experiment, have a speech, also has the user manual for the current platform. So it's put into different category of articles there. So people who are interested can go there to read.
Okay. So I encourage all to go to there to take a look, because I think it is very deep and very right what you say, very true, but it needs time to be digested. Okay, so let me also go to the other aspect I would like to focus on today is you put a great emphasis on the so-called real life learning.
Mhm.
Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, I think real life learning, the concept to me is relatively new compared to open source learning, which I have been working on for like more than 10 years. But real life learning is in recent years. First of all, always I think learning should never be separate from real life and from playing. So yeah, that's what I always believe in, and that's also what open source learning trying to do to make you be able make it easier for people to learn in real life and to learn while playing. Uh, but I think in our time, I think to emphasize on real life learning has some special meanings. So I'll give one example. Like last year, I was learning quite a lot of things online. So when I was learning, I I realized I discovered that nowadays the internet has really big reach. There are a lot of new medias that you can use for the learning. So um, it's a lot richer. Knowledge is there a lot richer for than than what I can learn from traditional schools. I mean, I have this realization before, like I'm a computer science major, so when I learn computer science, learn programming, most of my learning actually comes from the internet. Also, I learn for history. I'm interested in history subject or in a lot of other subjects. So I learned mainly from internet. So one major source for that learning is Wikipedia. But in the recent years, I think there are more sources for learning on the internet. So uh, if you can sort of combine them together, uh, you can learn quite tremendously even without going to school. So yeah, so for example, like there are a lot of documentary that has been made. Um, so so you can watch them, and like documentary from from BBC, from National Geography, from Discovery Channel. They make very good documentaries. So such as if you're interested in geoscience, right? So they made very awesome documentary about all the uh, geological events happening around the world. Also, like uh, including, I mean, they travel far, like into the deep ocean, and where people really go to and film it, and with high resolution. And for some documentary, they have these 3D images to animation to demonstrate to you the more vividly. For example, like for geoscience, so they demonstrate with animation the eruption of the volcano. How the movement of different parts of the Earth's mantle. So yeah. Also, if you're interested in biology, they have 3D animation to demonstrate to you all the things that's happening in the cell. So, so I'm a biomedical major. So when we were studying life science, we have to in in US, so we have to go through a huge book. It's this size and this thick book. We have to go through that one. It has a lot of beautiful pictures. So in that sense, I mean, the picture help. It's a lot better than reading through the text because in learning of biology, a lot of time you are trying to figure out what really that thing look like. What does the cell look like? So, but with picture, it's better. So, but with 3D animation, it's even better. It's even better. You can just really see just all the interactions they are having there. So the learning becomes much easier. The learning curve is much smoother. So all these are coming with the latest technology that made all this available. So including learning of like quantum mechanics, chemistry, electronics, learning of this subject. There are a lot of documentaries that are made. So which made it much easier for the learning. So there are also like other websites, like for example in US like Quora, people who are really expert in that domain, like professors, they scholars who are very famous and who are on that site and answering questions, spending time answering questions, explaining things. Um, so there are also Chinese counterpart as to Quora. But the Chinese version, I think, is actually from knowledge perspective, actually has a lot of advantage over Quora. I think in terms of like number of people there and how much time they spend there.
Can you
So
repeat?
yeah.
Excuse me, Leon. Can you repeat the two
Mhm.
names? These two.
Yeah, the US one Quora,
Mm-hmm.
Co Quora,
Okay. Yeah,
Quora,
I call it
but
Quora. Okay,
Quora.
Quora is
Uh,
probably you're right
I, no, I
pronunciation.
might
Yeah,
pronounce it.
yeah, yeah.
I may not pronounce it correctly because yeah, it's something.
I don't
It's a
know
website
how to.
that it's a website that after I came back to China, so I don't think I had really heard people
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No,
pronouncing it
yeah, no,
yeah
I
in
know.
US. Yeah.
Q
So
U O R
yeah,
A. Yeah,
yeah,
people know it.
yeah. So
It's very well known. Yes.
yeah, yeah. So, um, but the Chinese counterpart, equivalent to that. But there are more people on the Chinese equivalent one. Also, people spend more time. Just there are people there spending the whole day or a few days, couple of days to just answer one question. With very good illustration, figure pictures. You know, so they try to explain topics that most people are interested in. So even with quantum mechanics, so they try to explain a lot of concept there. So it's like I think it's like a discussion. I think if you are a physics major student, right? So when you're learning step by step, then you will have those a lot of discussions. But now this discussion are more widespread with more average people who are interested in the subject. So yeah,
I
so
know this. I know this because I made
mhm,
myself a course on quantum mechanics on Udemy.
mhm,
If people want to know that, so but uh, but there it's different. It's just a course in this. But whereas in Quora, you there's also a feedback between uh,
mhm.
the people,
Yeah,
like a
that's
forum.
right. Yeah. Uh, so also people nowadays are traveling more. So travel is actually excellent way to learn. So for example, I'm interested in geoscience, but by doing some traveling to different places, I start to realize the the geological features that's caused by the like glacier. So I can start to realize the common features. So also like by traveling, you go to museums, so you can see like art exhibition. You can see, for example, the samples they collected from all those geological uh, geoscience locations. So yeah, I think it's a bit long story. I think because in the old time, like 20 years ago, people in China don't travel much. If we make comparison with the Westerners, and at that time we see Westerners always traveling, even internationally. But for Chinese, we rarely travel. You know, so when I went to United States for my graduate study, um, I was quite puzzled. One thing is people there who are so interested in channels like Discovery Channel, in National Geography channel. So they love to watch those channels. So and they like travel a lot. So um, that was not something that I was used to. But nowadays, Chinese are traveling a lot more, even internationally. And for me, I also travel a bit, so I can see the great benefit of that. Is to open your mind to see the world and to really learn. You have to,
Yeah.
yeah. So also, when you after you travel, on the internet, there are a lot of websites and resources for your learning. Yeah, so like with Google Earth, with a map with Google Earth, you can see the satellite images of a lot of places. You can try to understand, for example, how the Niagara, the Great Fall, waterfall, how the Great Waterfall form. Um, so understand the reasons behind it, all these things. Um, so I have talked a lot, and so they are about nowadays the online resources. These are mentioned also in my article on the previous website that I mentioned, open source learning. Um, yeah, if you read the article, I think knowledge to B or to C. If you read that article, I think there are more detail there. So I think I will not go into too much detail here. But I want to mention another observation I had last year. So on Wikipedia, I did some research on on great Chinese people in the past century. So I can see almost all of them have great family background. So people I look at, including scholars, writers, scientists, even political figures. For most of them coming from influential families. Um, so even for the scientists who like the physicists, generation physicists who become very famous generation, they many of them most I mean all of them I can say all of them come from influential families, and for these scientists, they are not only you know very good at the science, but they also have very diverse interests in many other things, in liberal arts, in literature. So so the way I look at this is when we talk about education, I think people always I think know that family influence is vital for one's education. Um, so for them, I think their family, their like parents, why have been as they grow up has been talking, the this subject, even the scientific subject, just as some stories, to them. So they understand it. So they are able to talk about it like interesting stories. I think that is very vital part for their education. So it's different from families that have no such background. You only go to school, you read the textbook,
Mm.
all those things have nothing related to you.
Mm.
You have no foundation for such learning. Nothing connect. But for
Yeah.
them, yeah, things all connected. Things all connected. They come from such families. Their parents' friends. Always discussing these kind of things, and they truly understand it, so they can talk it about these subjects in very interesting ways. That draw the children. So
Mm. Yeah.
I think this kind of education are very important for them. So that's why I was so surprised to see, almost all of them come from influential families.
What do you mean exactly by influential families?
Yeah. So, for example, their parents and their parents or even their grandparents are very high officials in
Ah, okay.
China.
Hmm.
And the Chinese official, we know, usually is based on you have to pass the national test, you know. So by default they're scholars. So by default they're scholars. They are so so many of the family are like not one generation, several generations having very high scholars, very high officials in China, and some like uh, uh, principals of universities, and yeah, some if not principals are professors in universities, and at that time even college students are rare. So not to mention professors. So yeah, some from uh, famous like parents are famous writers in China. So
So you mean they are already educated people who have already
already,
a, a
yeah,
intellectual background or
yeah,
an
very,
important
yeah,
technical job or something like that. Yes, yes,
yeah,
but this is not only in China. I think it's a worldwide phenomenon that the
yeah,
family background determines a lot
yeah.
how.
Uh,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think so. Yeah, but to connect to what I mentioned earlier, nowadays the online resources I think can can start to replace in a great degree such family influence.
Ah,
You
okay.
know, if you're interested in
Now,
such subject,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
so we know the essential function of internet is about is about connection. To make things available across the distance or across the physical barrier,
Mm-hmm.
right? So nowadays, even for example, those influential parents of those families,
Yeah.
they are not only educating their own kids, they also like they publish blog articles on the internet. They
Mm-hmm.
write books which you can read on the internet, by digital books. So also they also participate in making those great documentaries that are available to everyone. Also, they also go to like website like Quora that we mentioned earlier
Yeah.
to answer questions. So it's a lot different from the past that they they make such knowledge more available.
Mm.
So that's a uh, when I mentioned real life learning, I realized that such things you know can be more available to us, if we intentionally work on it, you know. Um, so by making this kind of resources more abundant, more available, then I think real life learning has the real hope, to just replace the schooling we have nowadays. Um, yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, I'm thinking of another aspect, kind of. Um, yeah. Yeah. Also another, right. Also another phenomenon I observe is uh, it's also, I think it's also because of the internet. Like for example, nowadays people use a lot of gadget, like digital camera, like sports camera, and they also have all kinds of things. When they're using this stuff, they need to learn when you
Uh,
when you buy this
yeah.
stuff, when you
Yeah.
use this stuff, you need to learn a lot of things about like optical science, right?
Yeah.
Also about chemistry, about material, right? Um, Even you go to like have your glasses made, purchase glasses, you need to understand the material, the optical science about about the eyes, human eyes, the vision,
Vision. Yeah.
So yeah, in the past, it's difficult to know this knowledge. The barrier is bigger, and there's such distance. You have to go to find library, to find books, and so on. But nowadays, when I try to go to uh, go to the store to have my glasses made, I can do research online to prepare myself better, to understand better, how, so this abundance of knowledge that's already available, that's related to people's everyday life. You can learn of material science, chemistry, and also biology. If you have some disease, sickness, instead of just going to the hospital, a lot of time you can, make diagnosis by yourself, by learning online, So this is also what I did. This is also what I did. So since I was a biomedical major before, and I'm still interested in biology and healthcare, so this is what I did, and I know you can possibly learn quite a lot from online resources for the medical things. So so to summarize, uh, so nowadays our life really in order to function well, I think live a happy life. Uh, you really need to have the skill to learn online, to utilize the abundant knowledge that's already available online. So so I think this is also one observation. I think it's an opportunity that real life learning become more important, and there are more things you can learn in your real life. So to just illustrate a little bit more, for example, if 20 years ago you are a school student learning of chemistry, and you probably can just read your textbook. The chemistry is related to our daily life a lot, but it would be hard for you to really identify those knowledge in real life and to understand it, and
Mm.
connect to things on your textbook. But
Mm.
nowadays, it's much easier to do that.
Mm.
It's a lot easier to do that. So yeah, to take that as an example, that the subject you want to learn, you can find a lot of real life facts, information in your real life that connect to that subject. So that will so they call the so-called real life learning more easier to carry out, and the learning will be richer. And so I think it's sort of like, okay, even for very advanced subject like quantum mechanics, it's very advanced, right? So you really need to really understand it. You need to learn mathematics. You need to put a lot of energy into that. But before that, you can really kind of learn it in a liberal art way,
Mhm.
in a liberal arts way. What's the big questions? What are the phenomena people have seen? So
Okay.
try to uh for uh for any subject, uh there there's also a lot of talk about that subject, right? People who are interested in that subject are talking about it, try to explain it. Now in our
Uh,
internet time, we can
let me
see, yeah.
sorry if I interrupt you, but let
Mhm,
me connect this idea. How do you connect the study of things which are quite theoretical, like quantum mechanics, mathematics, physics, etc., with
mhm,
liberal arts? You
mhm,
hinted at this
yeah,
idea. I'm curious.
yeah. What I mean by liberal arts, I think I give one example. Maybe you can understand what I mean. I think, for example, like I want to study mathematics, right? So uh, before really just jump into the subject, just study one by one all the different mathematics subject. Maybe first I can read of the history of mathematics, right? There are several such books that's available. So you read how people develop mathematics
Mhm.
by watching the stars, right?
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
so yeah, so you read the history of mathematics. I think that's the liberal art aspect for mathematics. So that's a yeah. So I think this is the part of learning that's not there for the traditional schooling. So, but it's essential. I think it's important for the learning as well. I think, and I think the history of mathematics, for example, is is the thing that those influential families, those parents, will tell as stories to their kids when they grow up. That is to, so to inspire their interest and make things connected. Yeah.
Yeah. I agree completely because
Okay.
what I discovered as a graduate student when I studied physics, when I went through all the physics,
Hmm.
not all the physics, but I finished my studies. I mean, and then I realized, and it was too late. I realized how important, or at least how interesting it is to know about the story, the history of math and of science. And I would also add the philosophy of science, the
Yeah.
philosophy of physics, the philosophical aspects, and the history of these scientists, what they had also a lot of problems in their lives, and they did not get straight through to the solution for which they became famous, and they had also a lot of trouble in their lives, and it was a great inspiration that is
Mhm. Yeah.
this aspect, looking things also very abstract, theoretical sciences like theoretical physics, for example, uh, looking at things also from the historical aspect, gave me a lot of understanding of how we make discoveries and how our brain works, and this gives me today a lot of information and understanding how I'm working now on something, how what what the input and output from the outer world and the suggestion and the influence of others influences my thoughts. A thing that I did not realize before, uh, but became conscious of this by just reading the history of science and of scientists and the history of discovery in general. So I very
Yeah, yeah. There are
agree with you.
several. Yeah,
Yeah,
there are several documentary on such things like history of discovering electricity, how the
yeah,
scientists
oh,
discover electricity, yeah, step by step. Yeah, so it's really interesting just to
yeah,
go through that history and then see how they are able to uh I think this kind of skill is really much more important than learning the subject itself.
yeah, 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 yeah,
How you
yeah.
discover it.
And in
Yeah.
fact, here we come to the
Yeah.
point
Yeah.
of the school system, of the education
Mhm.
system, and I would also add high school, college, university. I would go even further and say how we make research in research centers, also people who have long experience in this field and maybe have also become famous for some discoveries, etc., etc. But this is a system that is old. There is not much real life learning. The,
Yes.
the idea of
Yes.
our schooling
Uh-huh.
system is still fixed to a schooling system of 100 and more years ago. The use of the internet, yes, now it's allowed, but essentially the school and also university remain mm, a teacher-centered and a lecture-centered system, and I don't understand why, because now the technology to replace the lecture or the teacher-centered lessons in the classroom are more than mature. They exist and they could make things much more easier. We could transform school and could transform university and all our educational system based on these new technologies, but it doesn't happen.
Yeah.
Why? What is your
Yeah.
opinion? What why is this there's this so much resistance to change?
Uh, from school system.
School system, college, university, generally there is, I would say, because the point, my point was we have now a tremendous amount of technologies and we will in the future have even more. And this is something that is growing in with an exponential rate, explosively. And we are now on the curve that is going faster, 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 and faster. But already now, we have already a huge amount of technologies that potentially could change all our learning. Also, as you said, with software, open source learning, real life learning, and all the things that you mentioned. And the things that you mentioned were most based on technology and of going out of a brick and mortar school. But still, school remains the same. Why? What is wrong? It's a question that I pose. I can speculate on this. I have my answer, but it's just a speculation. So I just wanted to know uh, if you have done some reflection on this.
Uh, as you mentioned, we are still advancing technologically, um, but I think if we really are able to really change our current school system, our current education model, if we really make a self-directed education, uh, the, the the major practice model that people can use educate themselves. I think so. Also, as we talk about real life learning, so I think we have a much bigger future. Our discovery of science, our problem solving of our current dilemma, our current crisis, we have much more solution for that. We also, I think, for even for science, I think we will have really much more discovery, much bigger discovery. This we just like we don't have that imagination, to imagine that future. It's a much bigger future. People. So I think it is already very big problem. Although we can still see we are progressing in many ways, but what the new education model can promise us, can lead us to. You should ask something that people can imagine. And also, we can already see the big crisis the current education system has,
Yeah,
caused us. We can see the crisis.
absolutely.
Um,
Yes.
yeah,
No, no, go ahead.
yeah. So the resistance is for sure because it's a institution, it's a system that already had a lot of people inside of it. So yeah, and also because the concept of learning, the concept of education in people's mind, uh, you know, very very often they have very deeply rooted wrong conceptions about
Yeah, yeah,
learning education. So yeah, but I think I still see the progress in that area. I think in the recent, I think few years, 2 or 3 years, I think we have changed a lot. We have changed a lot. If you go back, like when I was in the graduate school, working on e-learning, so that is 2003, 2002, 2003. So it's like 15 years ago. Then yeah, you probably don't even hear much about Southern Valley School. You know,
I
you
know. Yeah.
don't. Yeah. Um, so and you look at research that's done for e-learning, and you look at the current innovations like MOOC, MOOC,
Yeah.
right? The so-called flipped uh, classroom.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you look at them. You look at the I think Khan Academy. I don't know how to pronounce this.
Khan
Uh,
Academy.
yeah,
Khan
right,
Academy.
right. Yeah. So you look at them, you see all this innovation in the recent years. So I think it's already a big improvement compared to 15 years ago. Also, we know the Alliance for Self-Directed Education. I think it's also yeah, I think it's a big effort, big improvement, and for the also I'm very hopeful for what it can do
Yeah.
for the future, to lead the efforts to make self-directed education well known to the public.
Yeah.
Actually, I mentioned last time, you know, from my personal feeling, not that for the recent like a couple of years when I go online, on Twitter or on Facebook, or I think uh, at least within the self-directed education circle, like people are talking a lot, and what they are talking a lot, common practice have been doing, and they overlap with each other quite a lot, and a lot of things have been repeated over and over again. So you can see within this circle what's right and what's wrong with the current system are well known, and what are the good practice are well known. The only thing is outside of this circle uh, is still I think is relatively I think unknown to people outside of this circle. So I think
Yeah.
um, yeah. So I think for the Alliance of Self-Directed Education, they try to unite the uh, the two movement, the unschooling and the democratic school, put them together and unify them. I think this is and
Yeah,
make it a unified approach, self-directed education, make that available to the public. I think that's
this is
a grand
interesting.
effort. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
grand
yeah.
effort. But actually, I want reading you. I think you call future. No, no. I'm sorry. Free
Free
progress
progress
education.
education. Yeah.
Education. I think it's even I think more general framework that include adults as
Yes.
well.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay,
So
then let me go to the next question, because this was just the
okay.
question that I wanted to make to you, this last question. And in fact, you already mentioned that you would like to conceive to expand self-directed education to adults.
Mm-hmm.
And this is in fact the one of the core ideas of the free progress education paradigm, and which in fact already unites the unschooling paradigm, the self-directed education paradigm for kids, and the Sudbury, no, sorry, as a self-directed education paradigm unites the unschooling and Sudbury Valley school system,
Yeah. Right.
and free progress education is trying to go a step even further and to take unschooling and Sudbury Valley and to rise them also at a college and university level to a so-called higher education. I don't like the word higher, but in any case, that's why people use it, this word, to rise it to higher education standards. So I would like to know from you, what is your idea on this, on adult education? Can
Mm-hmm.
you be more precise on this, and how could practically be this become a reality?
Um, yeah. First of all, I studied in US school, in the graduate school. From my experience, I think it's fundamentally no different, not much different from like the primary, the secondary, the middle school, high school. It's not really, it's not fundamentally different. It's just fundamentally the same thing. Um, so yeah, uh, so it's still like classroom based. You're still going to classes, and the teacher is teacher centered, and teacher give you homework. But then the homework, even the homework doesn't make sense. Also you have to pass the test. So and you're evaluated by the test. So I think it's still essentially classroom based education. Um, so I think it's not much different. So also as I read on your website, you mentioned that for those unschooler, for those graduates from those democratic schools, they still have to sort of fit in if they want to continue their
Yeah.
study. So it's different from what they are used to. Their education model in the past. They have to learn the new thing for education. So obviously it's a different model. It's college is still the old model. Um, yeah. So I think um, so I definitely agree with you that I think you did your framework include all that things in it. I think it's a more general framework, and so I think that's a thing we need to build on. So my focus for a long time has been about adults. Um, so the reason um, I think one thing is there are a lot of obstacles. If you work with children, especially the resistance from the existing system. So there are a lot of, like, for example, policy and so on. So, but for adults, there are a lot of learning needs with adults as well. Um, so I think I will give several examples. Like, for example, within a company, I work in software companies. For software industry, for software companies, it's important. Learning is very important. It's vital for software company. So if you have a software team, how you build up a learning environment for the software team is very essential, you know. So yeah. So as I have led a software team before, so it's my major work really to build out such a comprehensive learning environment for them, you know. And it's more real because it's certainly project based. It's certainly project based. Um, and people have this incentive. So we kind of borrowed the open source model and bring it inside the company and make it, we call it the inner source platform. So without going into the specific detail of that, um, we it's actually, I think it's a very much a self-directed education environment. Um, our goal is to really try to have the soil, you know. So we have good, trying to have good soil, so
Good.
people can grow there. So it's like plants. So yeah, I always say what we are doing is just to build up the soil, the playground, the playground. You are a person who with a lot of life, then you will grow. You know, it's really up to you. You know, so uh, so yeah. To make it short, I think in the company, especially in software companies, uh, learning is vital, and how to build a learning environment inside your company. That's really very essential for the competition of the company. There are also other learning needs for the adults. For example, we have mentioned a lot of new jobs that's created by the software industry cannot be filled by people unemployed from the traditional industry. So definitely there are a lot of learning needs. You know, how do you help those people
Yes.
to gain new skills? You know, yeah, there are also other learning needs. You know, I used to teach migrant workers
Mm.
in China. They are the manual labor, so they work in the factory, you know, along the assembly line, or like work as plumbers, you know. So when I talk with them, I think they have this need to learn, for example, about accounting, you know, about a lot of subjects that they feel they got often tricked by their managers, by the client, because they don't know, you know, accounting, don't know math well. So
Mm.
they have such learning needs. They want to expand their knowledge. Um, also for those migrant workers who work manual labor, because I have taught them, and I know they wanted very much to leave assembly line. They want leave factory. They want to work in office.
Mm.
So they want to gain those skills. So there's such a strong and real learning need in the adult world. Um, so I think also for young professionals, for college students, they also have very strong need for learning. You know, they are not satisfied with universities, with colleges. A lot of them, even in China, already like organized in to learn outside of school. So I think there is such a need for learning for adults. There's such space that we can work on to. So when I look at child education, so I think the obstacle, in addition to the resistance from the system, also I think the one major obstacle is from adults. For example, from the parents,
Mm.
because they, it's a very typical story, right? They bought piano for their kid,
Yeah,
so it's a very expensive piano, and they want their kid to play piano all day.
yeah,
And the parents, they never touch the piano themselves.
yeah.
You know, they
And
brought the
the kid
kid to,
maybe that doesn't want
yeah,
finally to learn piano, but wanted to learn
yeah,
something else.
yeah.
And but they have spent
But
so
it's,
much money, and they force him now. We have spent the money. You must learn it
yeah,
because it's
not
a world
not
history, not only in China. Believe me.
yeah, not just that, but the parents, they never touch the piano themselves.
Yeah,
They don't know how to play piano,
interesting
right?
point.
And they bought expensive piano, but they never touch it
Yeah.
themselves. They brought their kid to learn about painting, but the
Mm.
parents, they never really do learn painting together with the kids. They never
Ah.
learn painting themselves. you
Mm.
know but really for adults, you don't need to learn painting anymore. I mean, I actually I went to some like courses that teach painting. It's by real painters, not like the artificial one we had in school when I was young. So I can see if a lot of like teaching I had in my primary school are wrong,
Uh-huh.
are very wrong, because you learn painting, you have to draw before a real object,
Mm.
right? You do the drawing, you have to draw before the real object. But when we were in the primary school, we only just draw by learning from the textbook. We have the textbook with the pictures. We just try to learn to draw from the textbook. We never learn to draw before the real object, right? So so
Ah.
so I mean, so with drawing,
Okay.
the key is to really to train your eyes, to
Yeah.
look at the things, and
Absolutely.
be able to put that, onto the paper. But when in school, we never really draw before the real object. But we have those drawing classes in school. But
Mm.
as adult, when I learn from a real, painter, then immediately I can see, I grasp what is really drawing and how to learn it. So I think for adults, you know, I think I learned quite a lot of things from such, from painting. So I think that's beneficial for adults as well, for adult life as well. How you look at the world, it has a huge impact. So how do you appreciate, so by training your eye, you start to appreciate, things around you.
Yeah.
So painting definitely, I think, for those artists is a way for them to appreciate the world around them better, I think. So
Mm.
yeah. So
Yeah.
I think the problem is with adults.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Absolutely. I think, and because there is this mindset among adults is that, or I've learned everything that I need. I don't to learn anything more, or I don't have time. This is a typical excuse. I don't have time, uh, or just they simply believe, well, child must go to school. They learn. I'm an adult. I don't. This is mentality. It's not. They don't say it so directly, but there is still in us. I see this also a lot of people who say, "Ah, well, it's too late to learn something," and whereas it's not true, because life is a never-ending learning path.
Uh-huh.
We
Yeah.
never end to learn. Every day we learn something, independently
Yeah.
from our age, and so and we prevent ourselves to learn something new only because of this wrong mindset. And absolutely, yes, I agree completely.
Yeah.
And also this anecdote that you came out here with a painting, real object, or from
Yeah.
the image
Yeah.
of the book. It's
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
another thing I never thought
Yeah.
about, because I'm not a
Uh-huh.
painter. I'm not very skilled in these things. But now that you say it, it makes very sense to me. Very sense to me. Yes, absolutely. Okay,
Yeah.
Leon, so I would say even now we have made a very interesting interview also this time. We have almost half an hour, 1 hour and a half.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
discussed a lot of things. I would think we can come slowly also to a conclusion. And this was very interesting in conversation. Very interesting
Mhm.
uh, uh, to hear also about your experience and your ideas. And I think we will keep in touch, don't we? I
Yeah.
suggest we keep
Sure.
in touch. Yeah.
Sure. Sure. Yeah.
And eventually we might also collaborate in future on some
Yeah.
project or idea if you wish.
Yeah. Yeah.
Depending.
Definitely. Yeah.
Yeah, that would be interesting. Uh, well, so if you have nothing for the moment, nothing important to add, do you have something to add, or you want to make some announcement or something? Or for the
Uh,
moment, I would say.
Not really much. Just I think it was something left off from our previous discussion, just about adults. So I think I feel especially I think for software programmers who can really
Mhm.
come up good solutions for adults, to help adults
Yeah,
learn either within a company or a general platform for young professionals or for those manual laborers or maybe
mm,
some training center, some learning center for them. I think I think I think this model, the success of this model, I think will have
yeah,
I think will really I think I feel it will be uh, change the education, the child education. I think
mm,
even more if we can first be successful with adults. The
yeah,
have the models, which I told is the self-education, self-directed education
mm,
models. Have them successful with adults. I think this success with adults, if it become pervasive, become accepted by adults, I
yeah,
think I think it's easier to change child, and people feel that the old model is really obsolete. We
yeah.
really not relevant anymore. So that's just what I feel. Yeah.
We have the Free Progress Education
Mhm.
YouTube channel and a other
Mhm.
channel. I have a co-administrator, a colleague of mine, that
Uh-huh.
he has
Okay.
already made. He is also a software guy. He knows a lot
You
of
okay?
these things, and maybe
Yeah.
I can
It's
put
Singapore, right?
of Vagish of
Okay.
Singapore, yeah.
Yeah.
And eventually you can, or we can maybe organize another
Mm-hmm.
session where we can, or
Mm-hmm.
maybe you can discuss this aspect more closely together,
Yeah.
because software for me, I'm more the physics guy. But
Yeah.
software, yes, I used a lot of. There would
Software.
be
Yeah.
also the topic about how much we should learn programming, for example. This is
Oh
also,
yeah.
but
Yeah.
no, I don't open this can of worms, because I know that we would go
Uh-huh.
beyond any possible time
Uh-huh.
frame. I would
Yeah.
let it to at this point here. And okay, so dear Leon, I thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
And I wish you the best and good luck for your educational projects and purposes. And thank you again. So see you soon.
Thank you for.
And bye bye. Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye.
Take care. Yeah. Talk later.